Hi. Thank you for calling. Thank you for calling. Yeah, we work in a call center when. Um, Thank you for watching Sunny California. My name's Kelly. This is Bruce Wayne. So today's video is going to be about endometriosis. Yes, I'm going to do this video while I'm laying down because my leg's half asleep and also I'm super tired. So, and I also just want to get a video out today because that's my goal. So anyway, so today's video is about endometriosis. Now, endometriosis is something that I've been recently trying to get an official diagnosis of. So I just want to share my experience with trying to get diagnosed with endometriosis, and also give you an idea of kind of what it is, because as I've been talking to people about it, they're like, what is that? So basically, for anybody who doesn't know, in case you have skipped health class or whatever, every month for normal women, their uterus fills up with endometrial tissue. That's basically what your period is you shedding that endometrial lining from your uterus when you don't get pregnant. So normally that only grows inside your uterus. Well, for some people, that tissue actually grows outside of your uterus and causes issues, and that is caused by endometriosis. Endometriosis is very painful. It's very uncomfortable. There's no cure. There's only treatment. Now, endometriosis does go away on its own, but not until you go through menopause. So for me, that means I will be dealing with this for another 10, maybe even 20 years, because my mom actually went through menopause pretty late in life. So how did this whole journey of trying to figure this out begin? Back in March, I had an irregular period, and I honestly thought I was pregnant because I was nauseous, and my sense of smell was off, and my period was super light, and I was having these weird cramps, and I'm talking to my friend, and she's like, "You're pregnant." And I'm like, "I'm not pregnant. I know I'm not pregnant, but there's something that's not right." So I go to the doctor. I go to the medical unit, and I'm like, "I need you to tell me I'm not pregnant," because my boyfriend at the time, who is now my ex-boyfriend, and for those of you who have been on my Facebook, you know why. So I text him, and I'm like, "I don't know what's going on. I'm not feeling well. Melissa thinks I'm pregnant. I don't think I'm pregnant, but I don't feel good." And he's like, "God, I hope you're not pregnant." And I'm like, well, that's a great thing to say. Anyway, so I go to the medical aid unit. They're like, "We don't think you're pregnant, but you could be. We need to do an ultrasound to make sure you don't have an ectopic pregnancy." And an ectopic pregnancy is where the egg, the zygote, it doesn't make it to your womb. It goes to your fallopian tubes, and your fallopian tubes will not carry a baby. They will rupture, and if they rupture, you are now bleeding internally and will likely die. So it was kind of a big deal. So I ran to the hospital. They get me checked out. They say, "Kelly, you have a fibroid." I didn't ask questions because at that point it was 4 a.m, and they could have told me I had cancer. I still would have said, "Okay, I'm going to bed." So They told me that I needed to follow up with my OB. I did. I made an appointment at my gynecologist's office, and I see a nurse practitioner. She's pretty nice. I don't mind her too much, but she was on leave because she had a baby. And they hooked me up with this doctor named Dr. Earl. Now, Dr. Earl was the worst doctor I've ever worked with. And I don't mean that knowledge wise, I mean that in like customer, like patient treatment. Okay. So, she walks in. So like when I called and made the appointment, I told them, I went to the hospital, I had a fibroid, I need to follow up. And they're like, okay. And she walks in and she's like, oh, are you following up about something completely different that I had come in for like a week ago or like a month ago? And I was like, no, I'm calling in for the fibroid. And she's like, oh, well, I don't have that paperwork. And I was like, okay. She's like, all right, well, I have to go get it. I'm like, okay, like, go get it. Like, I didn't fucking come here to look at you. I did not have that energy to begin with, but now I'm like, just thinking about this doctor makes me angry. So she comes back in, she's like, okay, so I looked at your ultrasound and you do have a fibroid on the left side, but based off of this, it's like the size of a grape. Based off of where it's located, you shouldn't be having any pain, but there's a cyst on your right ovary. I'm like, well, I get cysts from time to time. It's not a big deal. That's not what this feels like. And also the pain's on my left side. So she's like, okay. She's like pushes around on my pelvis. She pushes on the left side and like, she might as well have just stuck a knife in me. It hurts so bad. And I'm like, when she does it, okay? She ignores that, goes to the right side, pushes on the right side, and is like, that's where the pain is, huh? And I'm like, no, the pain's on the left side where I told you it was. So she's like, pain's just, what you're saying and what we're seeing just doesn't match up. So she asked me a couple more questions. She's like, I think we need to check your kidneys. I'm like, we don't need to check my kidneys. My kidneys have been checked. And she's like, okay, well then I'll see you in a few months. A few months? Did you miss the part where I said I'm in pain? And she's like, well, what you're saying and what we're seeing just isn't the same. And, if you don't want to get your kidneys checked, then there's really nothing for us to do. So I'm like, okay, I'll get my kidneys checked. So I get my kidneys checked. They do my blood work, and my kidneys are fine, which I knew because I had my kidneys checked, but she didn't want to listen to me. So they call me up. They're like, your kidneys are fine, blah, 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 blah. We think you might have endometriosis. We need you to see a surgeon because that's the only way to diagnose it. But the surgeons aren't available for another month. Okay, well, get me in as soon as possible. Okay. Wait a month. Go to the surgeon. And the doctor that I saw was running late, which, like, that happens sometimes, whatever. But it was like an hour late. And when she finally does see me, she tells me all the things that they told me over the phone. And she was like, we think it's endometriosis. Typically, we like to try giving you birth control beforehand. I won't do birth control because birth control affects your mood. I have a mood disorder, so giving me birth control can be actually very problematic for me. So she's like, I totally respect that. I understand. So then we need to have you see a specialist because they're going to be able to give you better options. So I'm like, fine, that's fine. So she gives me the information for the specialist. The specialist can't see me for another month. I'm like, I don't know what part of I'm in pain these people don't understand, but they don't seem to understand how important this is. So then, right before my birthday, which is in May, I get these horrendous cramps. I mean, like, not your standard period cramps where you're like hunched over on the couch, just like whimpering because, whimpering eating chocolate. I mean, this was like on my bed, labored breathing. I can't move. I can barely talk to you. I can't really think about anything except how much pain I'm in. And like, my mom was on the verge of taking me to the hospital, and she's like, "Do you need to go to the hospital?" And I'm like, "I can't make decisions right now. I can't even like function. I can't talk. I can't, just leave me alone. Just I'm I'm just going to die here. I'm just going to die." Um yes, I am that dramatic. But anyway, so I called the doctor, and I'm like, on my birthday, and I'm like, they called me because they needed like questions for the entry survey or whatever. And I was like, I need you guys. I was like, please, can you check to see if I can come in sooner, because had these horrible cramps, and they were completely debilitating. Like, there was no way that, like, that's normal. So the girl, who was amazing, like so sweet, she made sure she checked, and she found an appointment for me. And I went in a week later instead of a month later. And the doctor had me do, um, she was like, "All right, so I want you to change your diet. I want you to keep up with the yoga. I want you to try this yoga. And we're going to get a colonoscopy done just to make sure it's not anything with your colon before we start digging around, um, in your pelvis." And I was like, okay, like, that's fine. That's, that's totally, like, I will do that to make sure everything's good. Like, at this point, I just want answers. So the colonoscopy came back fine, and she's like, okay, so, we've done every exam we can aside from the exploratory surgery, because that's really what it is that they do to diagnose endometriosis, is exploratory surgery. And she was like, but, it's pretty much at this point, like, it has to be endometriosis. We can't think that, we can't see anything, but you're still in pain. And I'm like, okay, so what are the next steps? And she was like, so we'll need to do surgery, but I like to put my girls in a state of medical menopause beforehand. So that way it kind of helps the body, one, stop producing that extra tissue so that it'll be easier for me to get in there and clean it all out. And two, like, it'll stop it producing, so it's not going to be as much in there. So I was like, all right, that's that's still hormone treatment. So I'm really not super keen on it, but changing my diet based off of what that doctor said and just following her directions has been like majorly, like, it's been life changing for me. I lost 20 pounds almost. I'm close. I'm this close to 20 pounds down. And so I was like, whatever. So where we are now, hi miss, hi baby. Where we are now is that we're gonna do the medical menopause, but there's been some insurance problems. So I've been working on this since March, and they still haven't really treated me. I've just had a bunch of tests, blood work, um, you know, and Missy. So it's been a real pain, and like, literally. One thing that I have found that helps, that's super weird, like, is raspberry leaf tea. Raspberry leaf tea has some sort of effect where it calms your cramps down. And so I drink that every day. I drink a cup of raspberry leaf tea every single day. And that keeps me, that helps with the pain. It actually helps with my mood a little bit. Like, I'm not as bad. I'm a little less moody when I drink it. And, it's just been really crazy and really weird trying to figure this out. I mean, we're almost in September, and they still haven't. I still don't have that official, like, you have endometriosis. All I have is a pain in my left pelvis that has persisted, and it's fluctuated. There are times when it's not as painful, and there are times where it's like, ooh, oh, like, there have been days where I was like, maybe a hysterectomy isn't a bad idea, because that's how they used to treat endometriosis. It was like, all right, well, we'll just scrape it all out. We'll just but I'm 28 years old. Like, they want me to have kids at some point. I would like to have kids at some point, so that's not really an option just yet. But I guess I just wanted to make this video, one, so anybody who has endometriosis, who's gone through this, can see that, like, you're not alone. And yes, it is that difficult to get this diagnosis, and also just kind of give people a feel for what it's like. But thanks for watching the videos. I hope you have a great rest of your day.